Like to think of it, Friday Eve, 3 minutes past 10 o'clock, and we're already up to 77 degrees here at KRIM Studios on West Frontier in Payson. This morning, talking about the local schools. We have with us in the studio from Payson High School, Principal Jeff Simon, also Renee Short, the lead teacher over at PCS. And first of all, thanks to both of you for being with us this morning. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you for the invite.
You bet. Now, to begin with, I guess one of the questions that I have just to start off with here is, last year was I think the technical term is a funky year, with maybe a less than educational term, but it had to be strange for everybody, because I mean, I don't think we've never had anything like that happen before, where it seemed like all the schedules and everything were so disrupted. As far as PCS, I mean, would you concur that last year was way out of the ordinary?
Last year was definitely way out of the ordinary for the district as a whole.
Right.
PCS probably ran a little more to the norm than the traditional high school, just because we are a blended learning environment already.
Mm-hmm.
So all of our classes are on an online platform, just with the support of the teachers there on campus.
Right.
But we quadrupled the number of students we had as distance learners or online students last year.
Quadrupled.
Mm-hmm.
That's a significant change.
Yeah, so it was a crunch on finding teachers to grade, finding
Right.
getting our support, our programs ready to support that many people. So yeah, it was funky is a good word for it.
It's probably better than some words that could be used.
Exactly.
But one of the things too, Principal Simon, that comes to my mind is, with the work that I've been involved with overseas in disasters, we were doing telemedicine before a lot of people knew how to use the word in a complete sentence, and there was a real reluctance by doctors early on. We're talking like a decade ago, to adopt, because they're just busy. They don't have time to learn new tricks right now. I've got my practice to run. But I would think that there would have been somewhat of a similarity with teachers last year, when all of a sudden everybody's got to switch to this distance learning, and everyone's got to get up to speed with how to. I don't know if you were using Zoom or what you were using, but I mean that's got to be a real different bunch of twists for all the teachers.
Yeah, it definitely was a shift in a mindset that what we've all been trained is how to teach in front of a class, 35 kids and desks, and stand there and be able to give information. But we did have to make that quick shift. I mean, it was within weeks, thinking that okay, we're going from face-to-face instruction to online. How are we going to do it? The good thing is that our tech department has kind of been pushing us in that direction of becoming more of a digital community, and so
did you have
had Google already taken care of, and so all we had to do was add the Meet, and we just moved right into classes.
So you already had the laptops for the kids and things like that.
So the first round we didn't, but now we're one-to-one, and
Right.
So if we ever happen to have that happen again, then we will be ready, and kids will have those.
That had to be like a huge sudden expense.
Actually, we had already planned. Vicki from the head of technology had planned for us to go one-to-one, but the rollout had to be a completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I think we probably bumped up about 6 months.
Yeah. Well, and at the high school, in PCS, what we had done years prior is that we were buying Chrome cards with enough for our classroom set for classrooms, so that whenever you have to do a science lab that's digital, we had that technology ready to go. And so it was just easy to buy a couple more Chrome cards with computers, and then turn it around and put it in every kid's hand.
That had to be just a very interesting bunch of sudden changes or demands placed on you to have to respond to. It's impressive that you were able to do that. So now when we look at last year versus this year at Payson High School, how are things looking now compared to last year?
So it is still kind of the funky year that you're talking about. Although we're kind of back to normal, more than not. We still have kids that have to go out due to protocols, but our numbers are back close to normal. We're still up. We still have more students enrolled, but by and large, we have every classroom filled, pretty much in every classroom, every desk filled.
Wow.
We're back to normal.
Well, and same at PCS?
Yeah, our enrollment, we have a waiting list again for PCS, and distance learners, we've dropped to about 100. We have about 110 district-wide that are in online learning right now.
And for people that aren't familiar, PCS stands for Patient Center for Success.
Yes.
And can you give listeners the Reader's Digest condensed version of what PCS is all about?
So PCS in person is, it's a lab setting, it's a blended learning environment, and we have students that come in and they do computer-based curriculum, but in the classroom, it's a double-sized classroom. We have about 70 students a period, and there's 4 teachers in that classroom. So this student may be working on math, this student's working on history. There's a professional in the room to support them with whatever they need.
Right. Now, I would think that, of course, that would also, some of us, when it comes to education, need a little bit more, personalized focus. And then some people are more, more visual learners, some are more, auditory learners, things like that. So I would imagine that this really benefits, some students in some profound ways.
It does benefit a lot of our students. We have the ability to, instead of rolling students in 6 classes at a time, we can do 2 to 3 classes at a time.
Mm-hmm.
So they have less to focus on for shorter periods of time.
Mm-hmm.
And our curriculum is video-based, mostly video-based. There are readings and things like that. But it's mostly video-based, but they can pause and rewind and go back and re-watch the same videos if they need to, things like that. And then they still have that one-on-one support if they seek it out to, help them through the curriculum as
Right.
well.
Now let's go back to the funky stuff again. One of the other things that has got to be, I'm just assuming, but it has got to be an interesting challenge, is that the schools have gone to a 4-day school week rather than 5-day. That also had to be an unusual shift of focus and attention at the high school, I would assume.
Yeah, so it has been a change, but to be honest with you, it's been a positive change. We've had a lot of comments from parents and community members that support the 4-day work week and like the direction that we're going. We knew that it was going to be a change because just adding a half hour or 45 minutes to a day for a teacher, it's exhausting.
Sure. Yeah, you bet.
And so we have
It's not like they're not being taxed enough, right?
Yeah, we have to prepare ourselves. It's just like training anywhere in time that it'll get better. And so we're working 5 days. If we go back to that, which I hope we don't, I think this is a good system. We would have to train for that too. And so,
Sure. Now, does this mean that and I'm sure that there's a lot of variables here, but will kids have a little bit more homework over the 3-day weekend than perhaps they would have before over a 2-day weekend? That kind of focus as far as the overall curriculum?
Yeah, so the conversation when we first went to this was we are not replacing Friday with homework.
Okay.
So it's a 4-day work week, and so we need to work within those boundaries.
Nice.
And so we are ironically having the conversation we had in our PAC meeting today, which is the Principals Advisory Council on campus, about homework and how it's going to look, what are the real goals behind homework, and what is reasonable for kids to have, and the reason for homework and having it.
Mm-hmm.
And so we're traveling back through that and making sure that we're making it an educational decision, making sure that's appropriate for kids in school.
I think that makes perfect sense. And when it comes to the Patient Center for Success, I would think too, again, one of the real challenges this last year, having to move away from in-person learning a lot, have you noticed, did it have a deleterious impact on the targeted level of education that each student was set to obtain over the course of the last year? Was that disrupted?
It was definitely disrupted for the past year and a half. We're working really hard all throughout the whole high schools to try to build the skills that they should have had coming into us, for a specific level, and build from there. But our curriculum is kind of set. We alter it, but it's a little more, we're having to build in those pieces for the remediation on the side. One thing the district did this year though was purchase a program called iExcel for all of our students K-12. And it's allowing us to supplement their online curriculum with a program that's has a diagnostic, and then it builds students' skills based on where they're starting. So that's allowing us to fill in some of the gaps that they've had for the last year and a half.
That's interesting. And I mean, again, there's just so many variables that you all have suddenly, figuratively speaking, thrust down your throat. You know, you didn't have much of a choice. But it seems like you've done a stellar job of being able to make those adjustments. What about when it comes to athletics at the high school? You know, if you go to a 4-day, school week, I'm assuming, because I think we're still having football games on Friday nights and stuff like that, that a lot of the athletics and those kind of practices and stuff still are taking place on Fridays?
Yeah, absolutely. So yeah, most of our Friday football games will still be on Fridays, except for tonight,
Right.
when we go down and beat Fountain Hills.
There you go.
Yeah, we're gonna
Love the positive attitude.
we're gonna win the battle of the beeline. So
There you go.
Yeah, everything runs normal with athletics, and so if there's a game on Friday, we play. I think the only thing to change would be is if it's not a PD day, then they can have practice in the morning or midday or
Right.
whatever works with the schedule.
Yeah, I don't know. I looking back into the dark ages, right after the dinosaurs died off when I was in high school, I would have loved a 4-day work week. I mean, I would have loved to, work a little longer Monday through Thursday so I could have a 3-day weekend. It just seems like a win-win for everybody, really.
Yeah, and I think that some people look at it as a negative for the school to do that, but what we've seen with other school districts, and there were a lot from when I was in Colorado, we were close to the border in Wyoming, and a lot of schools went to the 4-day work week. They were pulling staff members away, and so every time that they had an opening, they had 5 or 6 people applying.
Wow.
And so I think that's really going to change how hiring looks here when we have a position. We're not
Because
gonna have
people
one.
want that 4-day work
That's
week.
exactly right. I
Wow.
think more people are going to come to us wanting jobs because of how we're teaching.
Very interesting.
Yeah.
So other than the adjustments on COVID and everything, any other, significant changes this year versus last year's when it comes to our local schools?
So really, I mean, the 4-day work week is the biggest change for us, and we have to make some adjustments. I mean, we know that across the state and across the nation that some kids are behind in graduation planning or graduation credits, and so we have to do some work in that area as well. But we've got a plan, and we're moving forward. We'll get them to where they need to be, and we'll keep working that because we'll be student focused and student centered. But I think the biggest thing that we have found is that, of course, our numbers are up, but we have every classroom filled.
Wow.
And our choir room is actually being used as a classroom right now too. So every inch of PHS is
So they're
as classroom
singing their
kids.
algebra, or?
Yeah, that's exactly right. We're trying a new thing.
Well, if not X, Y. But anyway, that's just an amazing bunch of challenges. What about some of the other extracurricular, boy, my mouth isn't working today, things like drama and different things like that? Has there been any effect on that from a change in schedule?
So I think our schedule has not changed. Some of the things that, like our CTE programs, their state programs are opening up now, and so now they're able to go to state meets and conferences and competitions like that, and so now we're able to get out a little bit more. We've also added a speech and debate program. Nate Stolk is running it, and it's starting small, but I think it's going to be a great impact.
Whether someone gets into, debate or any kind of form of oratory or whatever later in life, regardless of that, just being able to gain the confidence to get up in front of a crowd can make a big difference regardless of what you go into, for a living. So I think that's a great thing to have offered. When it comes to the Payson Center for Success, one of the things that you mentioned, Renee, is that a lot of it is video based. So it had to be, not quite as much of a, I shouldn't use the term knee jerk, but it must not have been quite as difficult for you to make the adjustment during this COVID thing, because you were doing an awful lot with video already.
You're right, and we switched online learning systems this summer, and the system we used last year was much more text-based, but it is, we had a complete curriculum that was set up so that students could do it pretty much on their own. And then our teachers, of course, were there, and we had Google Meets open all day so that students could come in for tutoring. We had quite a few students that came in for online support. What do we call it? I don't want to go back to it. So, online, they were on campus, so we had a few students that came on campus severely, separated and things like that. That we were able to work with as well. But having that set curriculum, it did make it a little bit easier for our teachers because they didn't have to completely reinvent the wheel at the last minute.
Now, one other really serious question, and I don't have too many of those, is that I remember when we first got into the whole change of focus at the schools because of COVID, one of the concerns that I heard raised, and obviously we can't talk about specifics here on the radio on this, but one of the concerns that I heard raised was that there are some kids that have really challenging environments at home that they deal with, and by all of a sudden not being able to go to school, that places them at increased risk. Did we see any repercussions from that that we know of?
So we did see some, and I think the cafeteria program was a prime example of being able to satisfy some of those needs. So we were taking meals out to different communities or different areas that
because a lot of these people, they depend on that school lunch. That might be the only meal the kid's getting.
Well, and with the community shutting down, the whole family didn't have much, and so we were able to satisfy that need for the students and probably a little extra just to help out. We always had the support system set up, and so if somebody did call and let us know that their family or their child was not doing well, we would contact different community supports to make sure that they got what they needed.
Beautiful, beautiful. Gotta love it. It takes a village, right?
Yeah, we are implementing some, I think at least 3 schools. I think JRE, RCMS, and the high school are also implementing this year some small group student supports to just give them a place to talk. And those will start at the high school right after fall break. And we will have a couple of different ones that allow students to develop that social emotional piece that they have been struggling with for the last little while. And we're super excited. We have a district-wide school social worker that it just started with us. Right now she's inundated with COVID contact tracing and things like that. But she hopes to get out and be a huge support for our families as well.
That sounds like a great way to keep your finger on the pulse of what's going on, having someone just focused in that area. That's great. And I don't know, I'm not sure why I would say this, but it's like kind of surprising in a small rural community to have that level of focus. I think that says a lot about what's going on with the Payson Unified School District. Good stuff.
Yeah.
I love it. Now, when it comes to, there's one other thing that we're running low on time, but I wanted to make sure that we took a little bit of time to talk about, and that is, Jeff, both you and I had seen each other at the Mogollon Sporting Association banquet here not long ago, and they raised a lot of great money for the environment and for youth. And just last night, I guess it was, that you got to find out a little bit about how some of that support is coming towards the schools.
Yeah, I wish that I could have recorded it because, I am floored by the generosity in our community as a whole, but especially last night with MSA, how much money that they were giving out to organizations that would support wildlife and youth. And it was just, it was heartwarming to know that I'm a part of a group that goes out and fundraises to make sure that all of these things are taken care of.
Right. What are some of the things that they fund through the schools?
So there were, the room was packed, so I'm gonna have to go off the agenda, and I couldn't quote how much money would be given to each group. But for example, the Hall of Fame banquet from the school district, that was one of the requests. Soccer uniforms and field lighting for the community. So it's not club, it's a community soccer organization that Joe Shinstock is running.
All right.
Highland Trail matching funds requests for the bike race, and just repair and be able to use the Highland Trail.
And with this year, the monsoons being in Payson here, the wettest monsoon we've ever had on record, I imagine that there's a lot of trail maintenance to do up there.
Yeah, and I think the other cool thing is that our middle school football team, they are actually going to go out and clear the road. So they're going to walk the trail and kick the rocks off and move logs and whatever they need to do to just clean that up. So
Well, that'll get rid of that nervous energy.
Yeah, well, it'll take care of something.
No, I'm not real.
And I think another cool thing that, especially where we live, is with the scarcity of water. We spend a lot of money on drinkers for our wildlife, and so there was another request for a solar pump to pump a spring into drinkers that would then filter down, and so it's a wide variety of areas for wildlife. And so it's, how cool is that?
Really?
That we are paying attention to what the needs are in the wildlife, and we're able to support that too.
And I've emceed a bunch of MSA banquets over the years, and I was still, and I don't remember the number off the top of my head, but I was still astounded this year to just hear the number of how many years they've been doing this, because it's 20 some years. It's close to 30, isn't it?
Yeah, I want to say it was 28 this year.
Yeah. It's like, I remember when that all started, and it just didn't seem like it had been that long ago, but they've been doing this for a long time, raising good money for good causes, and the banquets always have a significant turnout, and this year was the biggest and best yet.
Yeah, the profits that came from it this year was the largest that has been over the 28 years. And when the numbers were said, it floored me, from the generosity in our community, and then also MSA going out and working to make sure that we could get products to have at the banquet. And then, how many people were in there? Holy cow! It was you and I. We probably had the best seats because we were not jam packed on the stage.
Yeah.
But everybody else, there was not an inch of space to.
I've never seen them pack so many people in that banquet hall before, and they didn't use the typical round tables that have been used in the past. They were all rows of the rectangular table, just so they could fit more people per square foot in there.
And then the primary dinner went to the back room, so we could save some space there too.
And I think it was about 4 people per square foot.
I think that's a little generous. It might be 6. But
there you go.
But the thing is, it doesn't matter how packed it is, and people are coming, and they know that the money stays all within 20 miles of our community or 30 miles of our community, and I think that's a huge thing because everybody's here to support what we do here in Basin.
And they've been doing it quite successfully for a long time. I remember there was a lot of other groups, Rocky Mountain Elk Foundation, Ducks Unlimited, and things like that used to do banquets here. But MSA just came in, and I think at least I'm speaking for myself, everyone could see that, hey, this money isn't being disseminated out to places that have no effect on us. This is all staying right here at home, and I think that's why they've obtained so much support over the years.
Yeah, I think that's cool. All these other programs are awesome, but there is no national organization over the top of us, and so we don't have to pay any dues to anybody else. All that money stays right here.
Yeah, and when I remember Safari Club International used to have banquets here too, and you got to think that there's probably not a lot of safaris going on here in the country.
Yeah, exactly.
I'm just guessing,
Exactly.
but at any rate. Well, I think what MSA is doing is great in the fact that they're supporting a lot of great causes at the schools here is astounding. And it's good and reassuring to hear that it sounds like we're getting back a little closer to whatever normal is.
Yeah, it's going to be a new normal, but I think that we are bigger and stronger because of it. Now we have a few more tools in our tool belt, and we know that we can teach online, we can teach hybrid, we can teach face-to-face,
Right.
And so now we can do what's best for kids all the way across.
And with Basin Center for Success, about the same number of students that you had last year and the year before, or more? Or?
Well, we are about, like I said, our online program is about 100 students, which is still about double than what we had before. And a lot of students, I think, have found that is a system that they enjoy.
Mm-hmm.
And then Basin Center for Success, that in person is about the same size. And we also have a lot more students moving back and forth between the two campuses because students did find last year that they liked the online program. So they're taking 1 or 2 classes. So they're not a full PCS student, but they're taking a few classes.
They do a few online classes, and there's something to be said for being able to get together with all of your friends and the social aspect of school too that they can still benefit from as well. So,
absolutely.
Good stuff. Well, definitely some great news, and love to get the update. We've been talking this morning with the Payson High School Principal Jeff Simon, also the lead teacher at Payson Center for Success, Renee Short. Thank you for both coming in and being with us today. We appreciate it.
Thank you very much.
And thank you for tuning in and listening to Community Spotlight on KRIM. Going to get you back to more of your favorite music. Has some tunes coming up from Jim Croce, James Taylor, and a whole bunch more. But first, a quick look at RIM Country weather.
Now with this morning's KRIM weather forecast.
Just like that.
Perfect. Now,